Welcome back, everyone, to Potholed Pontifications. I'm your host, Matthew, followed by your host, Drew.
Hello.
And we are very, very excited to bring you a special guest. We've been wanting him on.
The most special guest we
first started this. We said we wanted him, and I finally just bugged him with a phone call yesterday morning, and I was peer pressured him into it. But we would like to welcome Larry Miller to the show.
Well, thank you for that. Thanks for having me, I guess. It was definitely a case of importunity where you just continue on and on until finally I said yes, because it was the only way to get you to stop.
Say you don't love us without saying you don't love us.
I do want to make a quick comment. I guess maybe I should start it off with this question. Would you still be considered one of the preachers at Victory?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. And this is as Larry Miller, not Victory Church. I want to preface this. I'm not asking you questions as, I should say, we aren't asking you questions as, and you're answering as Victory Church, unless you want to go on the record and answer as Victory Church.
No. Did you get that?
Do you want to say it again?
I don't want to do that. But yeah, I will answer questions as Larry.
As Larry. That's what we've wanted. We don't like Victory. I'm sure we could drum up some questions for Victory as a church, but we've been wanting to have Larry on.
Yeah, that's what you have.
Yeah. Perfect.
That's what you get.
Okay. I have some questions written down for you. And this is you should feel honored because I've never done this with a guest. We haven't had that many guests, but
I feel so honored.
Yeah, we haven't really ever prepared for a guest before,
so you should feel really honored.
Well, I don't feel prepared, but I feel honored.
That's what makes it genuine.
That's what makes this hey, you're never prepared for the pothole you hit either, so.
You may try to dodge them, but you always catch one.
I tried to dodge this, for sure. But.
Well, just don't say anything that reveals you, and you'll be fine.
Here we are.
Stay a little closer to the mic if you would.
Oh, please. Okay.
My first question is, I want to know about the founding of Victory. We all go to church there. I want to know, how it came to be. You don't have to call anybody out if you want to. If you feel free. It doesn't hurt my feelings. So I wasn't around, so I don't think it'll involve me.
Yeah.
But, just how did it come to be that you guys decided to form this church and, get to where we are today with it? And what are we, 15 years into the making?
Well, at least 15 years. Probably more like, let's see, when did we start? In 2008.
Okay, so 17 years.
Yeah, like 17 years.
About to be 20.
But to answer your question, I don't think it was like a goal that, in my part anyways, since I'm speaking for me, I don't think it was like a goal that, let's start a church. It was more like we were in a situation where we felt like we were restricted as far as following, the guidance of the Spirit, and how it was leading us. And through that process of seeking, that's kind of how this thing began. And what would happen, which I think you'll find out happens with believers, is those that, share in certain values and things like that, tend to, will gather together to talk about those. And basically because you find yourself in a safe space, And so that's kind of how that happens. You meet together with others who feel similar, like we feel like we're somewhat inhibited in allowing the Spirit to work. And you meet together, and finally that kind of progressed to the point that we felt like, this doesn't work for us anymore where we're at. And so once you get to that point, you're like, well, what are we going to do? And so we did some traveling out to Ohio to meet with some others who were similar minds. And finally it was like, well, we can't just go to Ohio, for an extended period of time, for 17 years.
Better buy a Prius
every Sunday morning. And so we decided, what, well, let's just start getting together, and we'll just, open our Bibles, have Bible study, and see what happens, where this goes. And that's essentially how that started, getting together. And then, of course, being in the church that we were part of, it was not, I mean, they didn't take it lightly that you were doing something else. And so there was quite a stir that was being caused within the community where we were at. So, we were dealing with that, trying to be kind to people, but yet feeling like we needed to lead, to follow the leading of the Spirit. And it just sort of developed. I will say this. One thing, we came from a place that was highly, highly structured as far as, guidelines and what was expected of church members. And so we started with this vision of, let's back off the structure a little bit and allow the Spirit to control more than, traditional structure. And so I guess that would kind of set the base for where Victory came from.
Yeah.
And, the things that we worked through from that point. And over 17 years, things change. It's not like...
No, a little bit different than the Burlington Community Center.
Sometimes you get to the point like maybe we do need some structure,
Yeah.
But that was just the basis that we came from, and so that's where we were at.
Yeah.
And it's like, I hope that I personally learned enough from that experience that since I wasn't tied into structure, it would help me realize that if we needed some structure sometime, well, then we can do that too. Just, be careful about becoming so tied into something that you can't allow for something else to be, illuminated, enlightened, or for the good of a community of faith. So, anyways.
You answered my next question because I was going to ask you if you ever missed some of that structure.
Oh, well, to be honest, I missed quite a bit of it.
Uh-huh.
And there was structure that I didn't mind. There was structure things like, well, you can't get together and have Bible study, or you got to be careful going on mission trips and things like that obviously we had issues with.
Yeah.
But to be truthful through this process of becoming another community of faith, there were a lot of times that I felt very, what should I say, very just like, I don't know about this, insecure about what we were doing. And I think a lot of that was because, we were just getting out of that structure that I was used to. So it wasn't like I was like, yay, here we go. It was like, I don't know. There was a lot of, I don't know where this is going to go.
Uncertainty.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Just a lot of uncertainty and not always feeling just like this is it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe intimidated a little bit. Just like, okay, what's going on here? So, did I miss some structure? Some.
Yeah, but not all.
There's some structure that should have never been there in the first place, so I don't miss that.
Yeah.
But, you don't want to just feel like you're out there, with no one holding you accountable. And that's not a good feeling, at least not for me.
Cowboy in it.
Yeah.
Making
rogue.
Making your own rules doesn't work the best all the time.
Rogue follower of Jesus. So.
Yeah. Because I know for me, like, I used to kind of be like, I like the freedom and stuff, but like the older I get, I kind of like some structure. I've been told I'd make a good part of that church before multiple times because I like structure.
I never told you that.
No, I know you haven't. He has. You never told me that reason, but then I have a coworker that told me, like, you'd probably make a good one because you like structure. And I was like, I do like structure, but yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Like, you can't get so caught up in it that it dims your senses to what the truth is. Because just because you have a structure in place doesn't mean that's necessarily true.
Right.
And it could be proven false, and, that's okay. Just be willing to come out and admit that was wrong at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's good.
Just from like when my parents started going to Victory and where it's at now, you can tell it's different.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I mean, I wouldn't say that what it was, 5 years ago was bad, or what it is now is better or worse.
Mm-hmm.
It's just different. What are your thoughts on how it's progressed as a church? Do you think in regards to like the structure, that was one thing that you kind of appreciate now, some of it, and some of it you didn't appreciate from your previous church. Is there anything else that was similar to the structure that you didn't necessarily carry over, but you see a positive to now that Victory has?
Well, yeah, there would be things. I am the kind of person who is, I'll use this term, I believe in integration. And maybe that's just more because that's my personality. But I can really appreciate some of this and some of that.
Yeah.
And I really feel for me, I feel like the Bible teaches us that.
Yeah.
It teaches us that the body needs to appreciate each other because we all work together. And so, I see things as better than they were at one time because they, in my mind, are serving the community of faith or our community of faith to meet the needs that we see there. Now, whether they're the best there are, I don't know, but I do feel like it's meeting the needs of, and I say at Victory, of younger families and children, and to me that's good. 10 years ago, I wouldn't have seen, 15 years ago, I wouldn't have seen Victory the way it is now.
Yeah.
But, there again, I didn't have a definite picture, and it was kind of contrary because people say, well, you need to have your vision of where it's going. I didn't really, and I'm okay with that because my vision was, let's see where God takes this. And the gifts and the services we're going to have are going to be those that are needed for this group of people. Yeah. And so, I guess I'm always to the point of saying, for now it's better. Does it have to be this way? No, I don't think it does.
Yeah.
Could we change from the way we are? Well, I hope so. I just don't want to get to that place where you put down something like, this is what we do, and future generations would feel guilty for not doing what we do because we were so firm on it. And so call me wishy-washy. I'm okay with that. I just want to follow our call to be a body that's united around Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And I will, I could worship in various ways. I really could.
Yeah.
What matters to me is a community of believers that are relying on each other, just loving each other, helping each other, communicating with each other, assembling together, not forsaking the assembling of themselves together, as we talked about this morning. Yeah. So, to answer your question after that big, long discourse, I think things are better.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying that they have to be this way.
Yeah.
Nor am I saying they are as good as they can be. I just don't say things like that. Because it could always be better.
Yeah. I liked what you said about like the united body and how like I think we miss that so much that we kind of like to segregate and like, or like, people are like, do you really need to go to church to be a Christian? It really reminded me, I liked this morning with the Bible study, and I like Mike's explanation of the removing an ember from a fire. If you have a pile of embers that are still warm and burning, they'll stay warm and burning because they build off of each other. You take one and remove it, it's going to go out. I really like that analogy, and that kind of reminded me of it again. Your point right there.
Yeah. I know Victory is, one thing Victory has, I would say, is a very strong community. And I think that's why a lot of people go there. I know I've spoken to a few people, not a whole lot, just because I'm generally back in the sound room,
Playing Call of Duty. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking.
Running the
Doing a good job in the sound room. Thank
That's
you
right.
for that. Appreciate it.
Hey, we do what we can. But I do know a lot of people that go to Victory for the community that they have.
Yeah.
If you think about it, whenever somebody has a child or somebody a death in the family, the whole community rallies around them and takes them meals or is lifting them up in prayer or doing yard work for them, whatever they can do to help the body of Christ work together.
That's always something I take for granted too, because and then you talk to somebody else that goes to another church, it's like, oh, my church doesn't do anything like that. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like that's something I think we can forget, and that's a very good point. Like we do have we have a very strong community, and it helps that everybody knows each other. But I hope we always stay that way, even if the church stays at 200 people, around 200 people, or if it goes to 2,000 people. I hope we stay that way either way. I think that's one of our biggest strengths as a church.
I am curious, as someone who helped maybe found, would that be the right word, Victory? Is that something you would want to see? Or do you want to see Victory kind of maintain the level that it's at right now?
No.
In regards to attendance, would you like to see Victory grow as a bigger church? Not necessarily monetarily, but bigger body of Christ, we'll say.
More in attendance.
Yeah.
I would never be opposed to growth, but I don't see it as a primary goal.
Yeah.
Just a big church, personally is not that particularly attractive to me. On the other hand, I don't have a problem with it either.
Yeah.
I like in a smaller group, it seems like there's a better environment to draw out people who would otherwise maybe stay in the background a little bit because there's someone else that will do it. And, which is maybe okay. Maybe that's the way people want to be in the background. And there needs to be room for that too. You don't want to just be, just bugging someone all the time. Like bugging them about being on a podcast. But on the other hand, to set that statement straight, a little of that is good because I think we need to encourage one another in that way. Like, hey, we could really use some help here. And that's not really my thing. I know, but we still need some help. Bottom line is, I think that's good for people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
And you get more of that opportunity in a smaller church setting. But I have no particular. It's not a goal of mine to have a huge church. Certainly not opposed to it, or someone who has that goal. I think there are different people and different personalities within the body of Christ. And when I say grow the church, I'm not talking about numbers. I'm talking about growing us spiritually closer to the Lord. And there are people who have visions for big congregations, and I leave that with them and what they can do to make that happen. I'm fine with it. That's not particularly my calling. So I'm okay with it either way. The only thing that, and just like we were talking about community, and having a sense of community, it was really good. There is a pitfall to that. If you know each other so well, sometimes it can be hard for someone coming in to feel like you fit in because everyone knows each other so well, and you know your parents and your grandparents, and people come in and say, yeah, I see a sense of community, but it's like I don't feel like I'm a part of it.
Yeah.
And so within that community, there needs to be a commitment to reaching out and making other people feel a part of it.
Absolutely.
And I do think sometimes in these close-knit communities, that can become a problem because
Kinda
it's just
cliquey
like,
and-
it's just like we just kind of all know each other and
You
we're
have to be
satisfied with
very
our deal.
intentional.
We
Yeah.
don't want anybody messing it up.
Yeah.
And so, it's getting out of your comfort zone a little bit.
That's
Yeah.
good. That's a good
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, I like doing podcasts.
Yeah.
Got to get out of your comfort
Is
zone.
it that bad?
It's not bad at all.
Okay, good. We'll have you on again.
Well, you guys are such good guys. So,
Thanks.
It's all Matthew. It's
No,
all Matthew.
not at all.
no,
Don't
he needs
liar.
you. Matthew
Liar.
needs you.
We're like a marriage over here. Our podcast is one. One of us says something
Hey.
stupid. That means the other one said it.
two or three gathered in my name. He's in the midst of you. I think it's good that you have two of you at least. So,
Yeah.
Well, we generally try to have 3, but it's everyone has a busy schedule now, and it's starting to somewhat warm up. So
Yeah.
things are getting busier.
Yeah.
Yes.
My schedule got worse the colder it got. It felt like it
Really?
was, well, just with the EMT class
Yeah.
and stuff.
Well, can I ask questions?
you can if you want. Please be my
now
guest.
now I'm scared. I'm not on
Be our
this end
guest.
usually.
Oh, really? No one asked you questions. Well, what do you think about the church, both of you? Getting larger in number. Do you like an emphasis on that, or
You go first.
You want me to go first?
Sure.
Okay. As for Victory, I like Victory. I like the community. As for getting bigger, I don't think I would stay. I don't really like a big church. That being said, right now, I'm not really into small home churches. They have their place. And I would, in my opinion, I would appreciate, a Bible study of men over doing a home church. They all have their place. I realize that not everyone likes big churches or even medium churches. I don't know what we would technically be considered with
Probably medium.
It's all relative.
average.
Yeah. Depends on
we'd be,
depends on where you're
for
at.
Florida, we would be
On the larger side.
On the larger side,
Yeah.
but for in
For Lafayette.
we'd be small. So.
Ants.
One thing I'm actually really happy to see this year, and I didn't really realize that I would be so happy to see it, is the goal to work towards everyone kind of preaching along the same lines or preaching together, working
Yeah.
it together.
I would agree with that. I really like that. It keeps a nice flow to it.
It keeps a nice flow. You don't lose track as much.
Yeah.
That being said, I can appreciate sporadic sermons.
Yeah.
And man, do I love when you come and preach, Larry.
Oh, yeah, it's great.
You break out from whatever Greg or Derek or Uncle David's preaching. I mean, you'll just come out of left field swinging.
I want you to know how
Never know where I'm coming from, buddy.
I want you to know how much we're holding our tongues for this podcast. So we had some questions to ask you, but then we decided probably better to not do that on air.
We'll ask
We
you
can do
off
those
air.
after the mic. So,
Yeah, exactly.
No. Like I said, I'm very happy to see kind of where Victory is moving with these kind of the decisions. I feel like they are getting a bit more structured as a church.
I like that, though.
I very much appreciate structure.
Okay.
It's easy for me to start to do something as a check mark, and with structure, that becomes very easy. But structure also keeps me intentional. And if I didn't have structure, I would be very unintentional. So the structure at Victory, I think, is really going to help. At least me. I don't know. Maybe not everyone will agree with that. I don't know who wouldn't, but I'm sure somebody will. It may not be their preference. I should probably keep it all positive.
Just say what you feel. Well, maybe.
Get more comments
One
if you're
thing-
not positive.
One thing, you kind of touched on this a little bit. I do think Victory can be a little cliquey. Because, like you said, everyone is so close knit. Everyone knows everyone. I might not be buddy with everyone, but I mean, I pretty much know everyone on a first name basis. You know,
Right.
you see them every Sunday. You say hi, maybe just short few minutes of conversation, then you go to the next person. I know with our youth group, that's where I've really had to be intentional with trying to invite in new people and be welcoming. And it's a little bit of a stretch for myself. I've been told that when I meet people, I don't inherently trust or like them right away. So I don't know that I would be the greatest greeter, but after getting to know people, I can really start to appreciate, you know, the value that they bring.
Yeah.
When maybe I don't right away. But I've talked to a few people that have come to Victory a few times, and they liked the people. I mean, everything was great. Everyone was nice, but nobody made like a huge effort to, you know, keep up with them, I should say, you know. And I think especially in our community, as much as, you know, Flora is very community oriented, as a church, we should be the forefront of that and trying to lead that charge and make everyone feel welcome, whether or not they come to church every Sunday or to our church. I mean,
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of my opinion on it. I think I love the idea of community services, but it seems like not a lot of churches like to work together because they're worried somebody's going to take, you know, someone else's attendance from church. And like you said, I mean, for Flora, I mean, Victory's a big church. And there's, what was it? I think in Carroll County, there's like 50-some churches. In Flora, there's almost 10, like, what is it, 7?
Mennonite, Methodist,
Flora area. I mean, it's a lot of churches, and I don't know. It'd just be nice to see, like you were saying, the body of Christ. Put it aside the, you know.
Yeah.
The, what would it be? It would be
the minute differences. I feel like
selfishness, maybe
yeah.
of not wanting people to leave your church because then your congregation gets smaller. Now, that would be the wrong focus of church because it's not necessarily about attendance. But you don't want to necessarily see something get smaller, you know, because that doesn't, on the outside, it doesn't look like it's thriving, even though it may be.
Right.
Matthew?
I was hoping you forget about me over here. I'm trying to stay quiet.
Never.
So, I actually, like, the last, I don't know, 6 months, year, I've gone to a couple different churches. Like, not, like, full-time. I don't know if that's the right word, but...
Visited.
Yeah. And one thing I have to say, like, we talked about a lot of stuff today that I appreciate about Victory, but I can tell you very much so, like, I mean, I guess I don't know their hearts, but I feel like there's a lot of, there's a lot of genuineness. Is that right? Is that a word?
That works.
Sure.
We know what you mean.
At Victory, with whether it's the pastors or the worship team or it's not for show. We don't have, like, you know, we're a medium-sized church, but we don't have, you know, we don't try and make this big production about it. It feels like it's very much, it's us and God, and we need to worship God with whatever way possible. And I very much appreciate that about Victory as a church. Now, I agree that, like, sometimes, like, we've definitely gotten more structured. For a while there, it didn't seem like there was any structure. But I do appreciate the structure. And I agree with a lot of what you said, Drew. That definitely, I think, as a church, and, like, yeah, when you get that smaller community, you do become kind of, I don't know if cliquey is the right word, but that's all I can think of. Just like, you know, I know you, I don't know you. I'll try and get to know you, but I'm more comfortable over here with you. But yeah, as a Christian, we're not called to be comfortable. That's not a calling that was ever, I think, placed on a Christian's heart, or wasn't intended in the gospel. That we are supposed to find comfort in Christ, and He gives us courage to go do uncomfortable things. So it's the best way I can word it. But so yeah, that's something I can do better at. Something I'm sure we all think we could probably do better at. But and like you're on today, Larry, I'll applaud you. I feel like you've always done a very good job at like, oh, there's somebody new. Let me go corner them and start yapping at them. And that's good. That's very, because it makes, because like, you know, they might be like, whoa, at first, depending on who they are, if you're super friendly, but being too friendly is better to me, not friendly enough. And I think we can all probably do better at that and be more welcoming, and like, we want to see the people that come in that you never seen before. Maybe they never came to church before. You want them to feel welcomed. You want them to feel loved, and you want them to come back. Because you can get baptized. So you can come in. It can be a super powerful sermon. You get saved. But if you don't come back, you don't have you don't have a family of a body of Christ to nurture you in your walk. Because it takes, you have to be nurtured. You can't just like sit around and expect everything. Like, you can't become a Christian and expect everything's going to be good now. Like, because that's a great feeling to become a Christian. It takes you in your heart. Not every day sunshine and rainbows. It's hard to be a Christian, and you have to have that nurturing body around you to kind of fill you up, to help you in those struggles in life, to realize that Jesus is still there. We still love you no matter what you're going through. And always turn to him. And if you don't have that nurturing, you can fall away from him pretty quick, I feel like. But so that's something that everybody can probably be better at. But that's something I would definitely like to emphasize, that as a church we should always be very nurturing. But also, like, don't nurture somebody in their sin. Nurture somebody to get out of their sin. Because I think we can all, not our church necessarily, but we can be too comfortable, or like it's too uncomfortable to bring up that conversation, but it's like sometimes that needs to be brought up.
Yeah, I would say something else that I was thinking of while Matthew was talking is another thing that I've noticed that I think will really help the future victory is bringing in some of the younger generation, more specifically like Johnny and Nick. And kind of that generation, and not necessarily handing the reins over to them yet, but working along beside them and trying to train them as best as you can, as best as you know how, to carry on the legacy of the church.
I feel like we got a kind of an insight to that when we had Johnny and Keith on, like how much you guys have helped in nurturing the youth group and kind of trying to like be there as a backup, but also not being overbearing, because that can be a problem too sometimes in churches where you have you've always had, like, especially when you have like just one pastor, he's done it this way all the time, you can't defer from that. But you guys haven't been that way. You've been like, well, what does the Bible say about, if there's a problem being brought up, like what does the Bible say about this? What's the best way to go about this? Not in a sense of we're going to control what you do, you're going to handle it this way. You're like, how about we not ask what we do, how about we ask what God would do?
Right.
And that's a very good thing to have in church.
Matthew brought up a good question. When we had Johnny and Keith on, I think both of them said that you may or may not have had a part in the youth becoming the youth leaders, getting that position, we'll say. Did you have anything to do with that?
I did.
You did?
Yeah. You, in what way? What do you mean? Just, I was on the elder board, and we were, what you would say, proponents of that. Yeah.
I can't remember exactly how Johnny put it. I think it was Johnny. I know I've talked with Jared a little bit about it. But Johnny had mentioned that when you guys had come up to them to talk about it, it was right before or right after a service. You're like, hey, what do you guys think about starting a youth group? I just found it funny how Johnny was like, well, I hadn't really thought about it, but we'll get back with you.
Yeah.
I didn't know how much of a part the elders or you or who played a part in getting the youth group started and keeping it going.
Yeah. Here's the bottom line is I don't remember all that stuff. It just kind of
I mean, it's been a while.
It just kind of happened.
It's been a while since it's.
But I trust that stuff happened, according to the Spirit. And as we look back, we can see that it's positive and it's good. And I think those youth leaders all have done tremendous jobs. And I was sitting here thinking as we were talking, and we're nice and we give commendation, and you're nice about me, and reaching out, which is all good, but still it's very important that we do speak the truth in love. Mm-hmm. And it is very valuable to a church or to a body of believers, community of faith, to be able to be honest and say things like, the way the youth is now, it's not working. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe we were at a point, I kind of forget, that it was like the youth thing is not really happening. So, let's be praying about what could work better.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so that is the way those things came to be. I also appreciate both of you men here saying that, as a community, we could do a little better in reaching out, because I agree with you, because I could do better. And that way, and making someone feel, like they're welcome, or we would be glad to be a part of your family. I think we all kind of realize that, but at the moment, sometimes we're busy, we got other things going on, and I'll use the word that I noticed you use a couple times, intentional. Mm-hmm. We just have to be intentional. In that way, you got to work at it, and certainly structure helps with that too. I just like to hear what you guys have to say. I like to hear what people have to say, because I think from that basis is how we move forward. And what we need to do for this community of faith to stay close. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, we want to stay close to God, mm-hmm. and walk in the Spirit. But just like this, for example, we were coming out of a heavy-handed structure, which was, telling us things that they should not be telling us. And then giving off that if we did not do this, then we were unrighteous, and essentially we were sinning. And so you come out of that, and so we have to be honest and say we overreacted to their overreaction. Mm-hmm. Because that's what happens in overreactions. Yeah, it just causes someone else, and so we're like, okay, we are done with structure. Mm-hmm. And no structure. And so it took some years to go through that, to the point that where you younger people are coming on saying, well, it didn't seem like there was any structure. Well, there wasn't. Because we were intentionally not having structure. And so then you come to the point where it's like, we need some structure. So you build from that point.
Yeah.
And you are certainly true, in my opinion, that we need to hear from younger people and where they're at, and because that's all part of it. And a community of faith isn't built on doing something like great grandpa did. Mm-hmm. It's interacting with each other in such a way that we're encouraging each other to follow the guidance of the Spirit, that we might get through our days, make it through the hard times, through the enduring times. But Matthew was talking about things are hard, but there is victory through those hard things, and we're not going to have an absence of any hard things. That would be ridiculous. And I am not a prosperity gospel by any means. As a matter of fact, I do.
Amen to that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I would be very oppositional to that. But anyways, I liked hearing from you guys.
Yeah.
So
we appreciate you sharing with us. And
I have one more question.
Of course you do. Yeah, I got time. I have time.
It's 10 o'clock, but okay. So before we lose you for today,
Is this something I'm going to be embarrassed about?
No.
Okay, good.
We never know, do we?
We don't. We don't.
I didn't even write this one down. I thought of it while we were here. You preach. I'm not calling you out. No, I'm asking you.
I don't care. You can call me out if
I'm
you
not.
want. Okay.
You preached a lot about relationships, and you went through Corinthians. You're all into, marriage and, relationships.
Yeah, I like marriage.
Why do you like marriage?
I support marriage. It's a good thing.
No, but I was going to ask you, I feel like we have a lot of young married couples that listen, or we have dating people, or single people.
People who are looking.
We
Getting
have
married.
one in every. We have every single category that you just mentioned.
We
right
are
here
diverse.
in this room.
We are diverse.
Well, we're glad about that.
We
too.
are.
Yeah.
Variety's the spice of life.
Yeah.
What would your advice be to any of those groups of people? Either that correlates, or if you want to throw in different types of advice for each group, because you've experienced it all, I guess. So what's your?
Yeah, I'm that old.
You've been married for 40 years, so that's two of my lifetimes.
Let's see. This morning we talked about endurance. that plays into a lot of that. Just endurance. So now, say that again. What are you wanting me to answer?
I want advice for
Being married,
being single,
and
getting
dating.
married, or dating / dating,
Okay.
getting married / dating.
Oh, wow. That's a tough one. For let's start with being married.
Sure, go whatever order
That's
you.
probably what you're most familiar
Yeah, I was
with
gonna
right
say,
now.
you spend more of your life married now.
I've been married 43 years. I don't know.
43 longer to me.
Well, probably this could answer more than one. But one thing is, maybe this is oversimplistic, but you just got to get over yourself. And so often it's like you think, you know what you want, you know what you got to do, and if you're not careful, you'll get stuck in working towards that goal to the expense of someone else. And same thing in your marriage. Just as I look back, a lot of times I think I wish I could have just chilled a little bit, because I was so driven by, this is what it's got to look like. This is what has to happen. And it's like, you know what, if I could have just chilled a little bit and trusted a little bit more in the Spirit to guide me rather than what I had decided should guide me. Mm-hmm. So I guess this is going back to allowing ourselves to be directed by the Holy Spirit. And here's something that maybe my years have taught me this. When situations come up, and they will, whether you're married, whether you're engaged or dating, or whether you're single, something will come up and you're like, okay, this isn't really what I planned, or what are we going to do about this? And so the first thing I do is when a situation arises, rather than looking at it with intimidation, look at it with a bit of eagerness in this aspect. Okay, God, what do you want me to know? What do you want me to know? What are you trying to teach me? So it becomes an eagerness to learn from the situation. Because I didn't do this when I was younger. I thought I knew. But when things come up, and whether they're disagreements or, I don't know, planning for a wedding, and you can get all worked up about this, but just stop and say, okay, here's an opportunity for me to learn. God, what do you want me to know? And then the follow-up is, and then what do you want me to do? Mm-hmm. I wished I would have done that more as a younger person. I do that more now, and I have learned to appreciate it. And it does two things. For one thing, it drives away the intimidation of what I don't know. Like, oh, I've never had this situation before. What's going to happen? And brings about an eagerness of like, hey, I can learn something here. And then the other thing is it teaches me to rely on the guidance of the Spirit. And even though something may turn out the way I didn't envision it, it can still be okay. Mm-hmm. And if you can rest in that you know what, I'm going to let the Lord work this out, and it's going to be okay. It just brings down the the stress level a lot. Yeah. That helps a marriage a lot, if you can do that. I don't know. It's been so long since I dated. I don't know anything about
I think what you said works perfect for every stage of life. I mean,
I was hoping you could put it all in one. I just didn't want to put that much pressure, but I think you did it perfectly.
I agree.
Well,
I agree.
Thank you for that.
I think you did very well.
Thanks. I don't know if I guess you probably are needing to head out.
Yeah, probably.
Thanks.
I was pleasantly surprised by your podcast. I'm glad I came, even though I tried to get out of it.
Maybe come back for round 2?
I think you text me when I was in Florida or something, and I just kind of ignored you.
Yeah, he never texted back, so I was like, you know what, I'm calling him.
Christy was like, what Matthew went? I said, well,
no,
we're just not going to talk about that.
I know. I tried texting you once, and I didn't get any response either, so.
I'm pretty good at ignoring my text.
Hey, yeah, you can come back for round 2.
Well, yeah, you have someone else, and then we'll get something to talk about. So,
you have a good Bible verse to close us out on?
We like to close out on a Bible verse. I don't know how often you listen to our podcast, but
well, once.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
Hey, no shame. No shame.
I have to admit that.
Do you have Spotify?
But yeah, I do.
Well, then you have no excuse.
Okay,
he's a busy man.
Here's probably the Bible verse. You've probably heard me say this a lot, but well, I don't know. Here's another one. Maybe I'd rather do. Just one verse.
You can do, no.
If you want a few, I mean, throw them in there.
Do whatever you feel like. We do 1, we do 2, we do 3. We've done 6, I think.
If you want to read a whole chapter, I mean,
no,
it's if you had time.
I don't want to do that, but let's do this in Ephesians 4, and because I don't know, this would probably sum up the burden of my ministry is just that the church could be united. And I'm not saying that we all get together and meet, assemble ourselves together at the same place, but just a unity that could go beyond what I would call intense theology, because I do sometimes think that we can get caught up in that.
Yeah.
And verse 11, we'll just start there. Ephesians 4:11, and he gave the apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, the shepherds, and teachers to equip the saints for the work of ministry, for building up the body of Christ, until we all attain to the unity of the faith and of the knowledge of the Son of God, to mature manhood, to the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ. And I'll stop there, although the other verses are good. But just that we can encourage each other that we might be built up in the fullness of Christ. And to remember also in 1 Corinthians 14:3, where he talks about the prophets, and as we prophesy, it is for the purpose of edification, encouragement, and comfort. And that's what we need to be to each other. We need to edify, build each other up. That's why sometimes we have to speak the truth in love. And really, I'm going to say all the time, we need to speak the truth in love. And get that in love in there, because truth that's not in love is not well received. But we should always be seeking to build each other up, to encourage each other, and to comfort one another. So that's the very center of my ministry, my teaching ministry.
It's not a bad one to have.
That's very good.
I would agree with that.
Good.
Wholeheartedly. Okay.
Well, thank you very much for coming
Yeah,
on.
about time.
Thanks for having me, I guess.
Are we going to listen to this
I
one?
wouldn't be opposed to coming back. I don't know. I've never done well listening to myself.
That's fair.
It's always like, why did I say that?
I do that on a daily basis.
Okay.
Well, thanks. We will catch you guys later. Thanks, Larry, for coming on, and yeah, we'll see you on the next one. Bye.